You can't get more classic than a centuries-old midday meal of bread, cheese and beer. Reinvented and marketed by pubs as a ploughman's lunch in the 60s, I'm now giving it my 21st century take.
Right, ploughman's with the most amazing but super simple beer-baked bread, hearty and full of flavour.
For a really quick and easy bread dough, sieve a mix of wholemeal and self-raising white flour with a good pinch of salt.
Salt is really important in the bread. It's the first thing I do once I've cracked it and smelt. You want to smell that salt baked throughout. Beer in, about 250 mils of beer. And the reason why this recipe works so well is that the beer, it's got that yeast. So naturally, it's going to work beautifully. Give that a really good mix. I'm looking for the mixture to be quite wet. If the dough becomes too firm, then it's going to cook dry in the centre. Just as it starts to fall through the whisk. That is perfect. Beautiful.
This mix will work really well as one large loaf, but I want to make my ploughman's a little bit more special.
Small tins give it that kind of intimacy, and I quite like having my own little loaf. Give the moulds a really nice lining with butter. Make sure you butter the top. Now, tablespoon of flour. Dust inside the mould. That will stop your mixture sticking. Tap out any excess. 3/4 fill your little moulds. We're going to allow it to sort of rise just so it comes above the mould and forms this really nice miniature loaf. Onto the tray, centimetre apart. Into the oven, 25 to 30 minutes at 180. Something quite nice about the smell of home-baked bread in the kitchen. Delicious.
No ploughman's is complete without pickled onions.
Red onion is a lot sweeter, less harsh than a white onion. The early days of ploughman's, you've got those ghastly, sharp, pickled onions that make you almost cry when you're crunching them. I'm gonna lightly pickle my red onion. Just push your fingers through so you get these nice sort of onion rings. A little touch of salt, a little sprinkle of sugar, and then a couple of cloves in there. That gives it a really nice sort of perfume and sort of makes the pickling slightly more mellow. Red wine vinegar. Now, if you haven't got red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, it's just as good, but red matches the red onion, so it goes hand in glove. A couple of tablespoons of vinegar. Just give that a really good mix.
To speed up the pickling process, use a weight to put pressure on the onions.
As the weight presses down on the onions, the clove, the salt, the sugar, the vinegar work their magic. And it comes out with a really nice, light, fragrant pickle.
For my 21st century ploughman's, I'm creating an all-in-one salad and bringing the traditional elements together with a punchy dressing. A tablespoon of English mustard, a tablespoon of honey, a touch of salt and pepper, and finish off with white wine vinegar and olive oil.
Now, generally, it's sort of 3 parts oil to 1 part vinegar. That's the sort of general base. You don't really think of a vinaigrette with a ploughman's, but this is a really nice sort of modern approach to a ploughman's.
For my ploughman's salad, I'm using a mixture of robust and crunchy romaine lettuce and punchy watercress.
If I was making a watercress soup, I'd use the stalks. But the stalks are a little bit bitter, so I just grab them like that, pinch them, and then twist. Very peppery, very hot, but so juicy. Watercress in, your celery, chop it nice and finely. It's the one thing that everybody leaves is that stick of celery, so scatter it amongst the salad.
A bit of oomph and colour from some sliced radishes and sweetness from a thinly sliced apple. Whilst you're busy throwing your ploughman's salad together, do not forget about your beer bread.
Before it comes out, I'm going to glaze the top with a little touch of milk. That'll put a really nice finish to the bread. Back in for the last 5 minutes. Now for the magic in the ploughman's. Generally, you'd see it as a ham or cheddar or Stilton ploughman's. It's hard to dictate which one's the best.
So, for the ultimate ploughman's, I'm adding all 3.
With your cheddar, peel some nice shards of that delicious, creamy cheddar. Just get them dancing on top. Your dressing, drizzle round in circles. And then finally, our delicious, lightly pickled onions. Give them a good squeeze. And look, just dot the onions around. Bread is ready. It's got that nice, yeasty smell. Warm, crusty, and delicious. And there you go. That is my classic, modern version of a traditional, stunning ploughman's. Wow.
My delicious all-in-one plowman salad with individual bare bread loaves, updated for the 21st century.
A delicious saffron flatbread with mussels. It doesn't get any healthier than that.
First job, the super easy saffron flatbread.
Put the saffron into the bowl and a couple of teaspoons of hot water. That starts to infuse the saffron, and so you can maximise on the colour across your flatbreads.
To make the dough, simply add plain flour, a pinch of salt and pepper to a bowl, and then pour in a dash of olive oil.
That makes the dough nice and silky and rich. Your saffron water, you'll see how concentrated it is now. And then you'll need cold water.
Then simply knead to bring the dough together.
Mop up all your flour. You can see now the saffron's activated. It's got that really nice colour. Beautiful. Use your wrist and just knead it nicely. What we'll do now is smoothing out the gluten strands. Push and tuck in. Push and tuck in. And each and every time you do this, getting softer, you just sort of form like this perfect, beautiful dough. It smells delicious. That saffron is very powerful. Now, sit that in your bowl, cover it with cling film, let it rest for 10 to 15 minutes.
This relaxes the dough, making it easier to roll and gives it time to infuse with the saffron.
I'm gonna cut that into 3 and then roll them nice and thinly. Now, lightly flour the surface and then just bring that to like a perfect ball on the board. Once you've got that nice ball, your rolling pin, and just roll it out. Now, it doesn't get any simpler than that. And then just lightly flour that on top. And a little salt.
Cooking the flatbread is easy. Just pop in a hot, dry pan and they're ready in minutes.
As it hits the pan, it starts to blister. She's ready for turning. Beautiful. Get that colour on there. Now you want it nice and crisp, almost blistering on both sides. And because it's nice and thin, it's cooked.
Once browned on both sides, just cool on a rack. Flatbread's done. Now onto the mussels.
Now the secret behind cooking great mussels is in the speed you cook them.
The key is to chop and prep your ingredients before you start cooking.
First thing, pancetta. I want it quite chunky. If you can't get pancetta, I always like to use a sort of streaky bacon because I want to sort of render all that flavour out the streaky bacon. Now, tomatoes, garlic and chilli. Cherry tomatoes, they're just going in whole. The garlic, just crush the garlic. So all that flavour comes out. Chilli, I want some heat in here.
That's everything prepped. Now to get it cooked.
A little touch of olive oil. Pancetta in.
Pancetta takes moments. Once it's brown and crisp, put your garlic, chilli and whole cherry tomatoes into the pan.
Mussels go in. Okay.
And I'm using dry sherry. I think it works better in this recipe than white wine, which is classically used at this stage. Then oregano, finely chopped, stalks and all.
Oregano on. And then just give that a little mix. And you'll see those mussels start to open. Lid goes on. You've got to lock in that flavour. Got to lock in that heat.
The mussels will take 4 to 5 minutes to steam. In the meantime, cut your flatbreads into strips.
Crispy and crunchy. Now, the mussels. Wow, that is incredible. My goodness me. Now, that is one lunch I definitely don't want to miss. Healthy and delicious. Doesn't get any better than that. Incredible.
Steamed mussels with saffron flatbreads, made in minutes and packed with protein and vitamins. This is one fast food meal that really is healthy. Irresistible cinnamon eggy bread with quick stewed apples.
I've never forgotten, I think I was about 6 years of age when Mum brought this huge tray of eggy bread to the table. And it was like, wow, Mum, we've died and gone to heaven. Start off with a slightly stale bread, 4 or 5 day old loaf left over. If it's a fresh bread, then it absorbs too much of the egg, so therefore it gets soggy. You never get it fried and crisp. And if you're not going to use it for breadcrumbs, eggy bread is a must. In France, they call it pain perdu, the lost loaf. Now, eggy bread is great on its own, but serving it with stewed apples is delicious. So the secret here, keeping the skins on. There's a lot of flavour in the skin, and also it stops the apple from breaking down too quickly. You get these nice chunks as opposed to a sort of apple puree. Now, get your pan nice and hot and sprinkle a couple of tablespoons of sugar. Take the sugar down to a light caramel. It's quite incredible how cheap it is to make this, and yet it was so filling.
If you haven't got apples, this recipe will work pretty much with any fruit you've got in.
Don't be scared to mix a pear and an apple, a banana and a pineapple. Just stew it. Lightly toss in the caramel, get a little knob of butter. That makes a nice toffee apple flavour. Really simple. Now, you can see what's happening. The apples are caramelising, but they're staying intact because the skin's on the apple. And the caramel's turned into this nice, rich butterscotch sauce. Once you've glazed all the apples, a couple of tablespoons of water in there. Bring that to the boil and let that cook out. Now, the eggs. 3 whole eggs. Whisk up the eggs. Add about 4 tablespoons of milk. You want the egg thick and rich. And then lightly sprinkle in a couple of tablespoons of sugar. That sweetens up the mixture. And when you start frying the bread, it caramelises it beautifully. A teaspoon of powdered cinnamon. That gives the bread that really nice, spicy deliciousness. Apples are glazing beautifully. And put them on a low heat and get a pan on now for the bread. A teaspoon of oil. That stops the butter from burning. Butter in. So that starts frothing. Get your bread in. You've got to be pretty quick now. Now, you don't leave the bread soaking. Drain. And in the pan.
Once your eggy bread has browned, flip it over.
90 seconds each side. That butter gives that nice golden brown colour of that egg. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. It's quite remarkable, isn't it? A couple of eggs, splash of milk, leftover apples, and all of a sudden you've got this stunning breakfast. Now, my apples, they've all glazed beautifully. Get a nice spoon of that amazing juice and drizzle that over. Wow. If my mum saw me doing this, she'd kill me. You're getting all posh again. No, Mum. I'm using a touch of iced sugar to make it look stunning. And that, for me, takes me back to when I was 6 years of age. And I thought I'd just won the lottery. That is incredible. Eggy bread.
You won't get more breakfast for your buck. My mum's incredibly delicious cinnamon eggy bread with quick stewed apples.